Make that big boss less special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level.
What's up, world, and welcome back to Codename Morpheus episode. I don't fucking know. And it's
9,
been
10?
something like that. It's been an interesting day of recording so far. We still have our good friend Erik the animator, aka eWeezie, with us, and then of course there's that guy with the red hat on the end there, who is just destroying.
Show me your booty hole. Oh!
I'm not even gonna get into that. So this is Codename Morpheus, which is your sort of dig into the world of the virtual here at Level 2 Gaming, where we talk about all the VR headsets, but mostly PSVR, because that's the one we have, and it's just sort of disperse the news, the new releases, the sales, and a big question.
There's a lot of. I feel like I'm not gonna spoil anything, but I feel like there's a lot of good news that came out this week.
There's a lot going on, yeah.
A lot of stuff. A lot of like big things. Just drop, go.
So let's start with the new games this week, and I've kind of split them between two. I've split them between the U.S. releases and some foreign releases. And
you want a jerky, Tom? Those of you who are listening were eating beef jerky. If you hear,
I'm a pescatarian. I can't eat.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Fish jerky.
It is not. It is beef.
It took you a really long time to see that on the package. Show the package.
I was trying to find.
It took them.
If you're listening,
how
it's
long?
It's big giant letters at the bottom. I was looking up top, like I was hoping this was gonna be up here, but it's down here. That's what I was like.
This is Mountain Man jerky. Is what it is. You're eating an actual Mountain Man.
Old Trapper turkey.
Old Trapper.
It's pretty tasty.
It is.
Is it?
It's better than, because Jack Link's beef jerky. We're getting on the jerky conversation here real quick. Jack Link's beef jerky is too like moist. Like this is like good.
This is yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so new games this week for PSVR. We're looking at Bloody Zombies, which is not bloody as in blood, but bloody as in
British.
my country of origin's term for derogatory
Bloody
things.
stuff.
Bloody Zombies would be a better way to pronounce it. And that is available for $15 on the store. Now, Bloody Zombies looks really interesting because it is essentially a kind of 2.5D. It's like got that kind of Z space, but it's a 2.5.
Nobody knows what it is.
He's gonna use it all the time.
All the time. 2.5D Streets of Rage style, Simpsons arcade style beat 'em up, where you're just walking through streets and sort of beating up thugs and stuff. But it has this kind of paper art thing going on, which makes it look like The Lost Bear or like a South Park episode, basically. And it is in both regular mode and VR mode. You can play both at the same time, so you can be in VR, your buddy can be in non-VR, and
So it doesn't do the share screen then.
I don't know, but it's interesting either way. But it's
Well, I'm saying if you do the dual, because usually what happens is the whatever goes through the headset goes to the share screen. So if you can play both on the same,
I
PS4,
assume you can turn it off if you choose that mode.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, you could still do it for recording purposes, but yeah. So I mean, the trailer is mostly regular footage of the game, and then they kind of top it off at the end with what it looks like in VR perspective. And to me, it looks really interesting. It just literally looks like you're looking at the street in front of you and kind of controlling.
What I found interesting when I saw it, because I made a comment of like, this looks like The Lost Bear, and it's one, like I said last week, I feel like The Lost Bear didn't need to be VR. It added some things, but not a whole lot to it. What I noticed is when I don't know what to call it, it's like the spinny saw thing looking, is like a gear with things on it. Because I thought it was just to be like this, and you'd be like, I can move around, and it's 2D, like you move around this way, but it had depth.
Yeah.
So that's what I was like, okay, they did it, but they added something to it.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, I mean, I remember you were a little skeptical before the VR footage came, but it was.
I'm skeptical of everything in virtual reality.
This is true. You watched the trailer. What did you think?
I did. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was
cool,
nice. I want to play it. I think it'd be cool.
It's $15 as well, so you can't really argue at a price like that. So far, seal of approval for how that looks. Again, none of us have played it at this point, but just a quick heads up. Secondly, really exciting looking game. The only thing I'm worried about with this game is time and how long you get in it, because it is very cheap. And that is $6, and this is called Manifest 99. Now, Manifest 99 is a game where you are traveling through a train in the afterlife, and that train has 4 different kind of, I want to say they're like anthropomorphic people things. Yeah, like they're animals, but they're like dressed up in suits and stuff.
Yeah.
So whatever that word is, and you're kind of following their stories through the afterlife and kind of learning about them. It is super creepy art style.
Yeah. There's one of those things. There's one I can't remember what the animal was, but there's one with the big eyes, and I was like, that'd be that
was a bear.
because I know what it's like in VR, and I know that'd be terrifying in VR for me.
Because it sat next to you, and you're like, this bear has eyes that are smoking.
Yeah,
it's kind of bizarre. Is there a fly up there?
No, that's just what I would look like if I was.
If you start smoking eye bear.
Because I'm assuming it's going to be bigger than me.
Yeah. So this one looks great. I mean, $6 you can't.
Yeah, it looks good. I'm just like you said, length is kind of the concern.
It's just like, is it like a 20-minute experience, or is it like a good hour and a half, 2 hours? If it's in that region, I'd be way more.
The trailer looks really interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
looks good.
We argue or debate all the time, or talk all the time about trailers because trailers sell games. Literally, especially on the digital store, and this trailer had me intrigued. I don't know if it looks scary, so
didn't give away a lot.
No, but it gave you enough that you're like, okay, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
and I would love to know kind of what the story is.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of it is static as well. I don't think you're moving around too much, so hopefully a lot of the story is you could just sit there and kind of swallow the story as opposed to having to like interact an awful lot moving around the train and things like that. And then the last one, this one we're all kind of torn on, I think, which is VR Carts, which has been out for a while in a couple other stores. It's been in the UK store for a while, been in the Australian store for a while. But VR Carts is, I mean, essentially it is a VR stab at doing Mario Kart, but not the way that the actual VR Mario Kart is. It's kind of tacky looking. I don't want to shit on it because, again, I haven't played it yet, but it's $40 and it looks super generic. And even though it looks like it could potentially be a lot of fun,
all your friends have to have a VR headset.
Yeah, all your friends have to have a VR headset. All of them have to pay $40 for this game, and there doesn't appear to be a lot going on, like graphically, or even like you said there's like no drifting or anything. You can really tell.
It didn't look like it just looked like you would turn.
And when it comes to a game like this, a lot of it comes down to how it controls. Like any racing game comes down to controls. You can have whatever graphics you want over top of it.
Yeah,
it's all comes down to control. So if it controls well, I still think even if it controls well, I still think $40 is a steep price tag for a kart game, unless it's Mario Kart or.
In which case, it could be like $100.
Diddy Kong? No, I wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't buy Mario Kart VR for $100.
Oh, VR, yes.
Yeah.
I thought just regular Mario Kart. Or Diddy Kong Racing, I would buy in a heartbeat.
Diddy was good.
But other than that, like $40 is steep. You're telling me, because to me, $40 is. Because this looks like an indie game, but $40 to me is not necessarily a AAA game, but I put it in the same class as Ratchet & Clank, and Ratchet & Clank was really well polished.
Yeah.
So
this was not.
This didn't look like it was.
I would put it more in the 2025 category.
Yeah, that was my thought. So maybe a sale in the future? Pick it up?
Keep an eye on it for sales.
Or watch the trailer or watch footage.
Yeah, the footage is behind, so you can see that stuff anyway.
Hey, Weezie, if you sit like this, they can't see it.
So there you go. And then just to follow up on some of the foreign accounts, because as you know, we released the series of how to make a foreign PSN.
There's a couple more coming. I still got to make thumbnails for them.
Yeah, there's a couple more coming. They're recorded. We're just waiting for thumbnails for Australia and for America, because I figured it was really unfair to do one on like how to get a Chinese account.
Did you call it a foreign account for America?
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, to some people it is. So I just felt bad, like leaving that, like the guys that we're like going to their PSN stores and jacking their free shit, and we have the biggest PSVR selection of any country, so it only makes sense to make an American one. So you have one for those of you that have been letting us dip in and out of your countries.
Another games. It's not just for VR too, because like Knack was free in Australia for a little while there, so you could.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Knack 2 came out and was accidentally free. Sorry, it's the basement. Accidentally free for a long time in Australia. I didn't catch it. It was already taken down by the time I got that account up. But I thought I'd throw it in there in case anything ever happens again. But the one new game that did come out has got a lot of hype behind it, and it is something you could pick up if you have a UK account plus a PSN card for the UK, to the equivalent of $20 or £20, sorry, is Radial G Racing Evolved, which is this kind of Wipeout looking game. You remember Wipeout, right? Right. Yeah. So it's Wipeout in VR, basically, but you're kind of like, instead of being on a track, you're on like tubes and stuff, and you can go all the way around them and stuff, kind of like hover ships or whatever.
Sounds like a vomit fest.
You might be. I don't know if you can switch between cockpit and third person or not.
He said cockpit.
It's true. I don't know if you can switch between cockpit and third person. It looks mostly third person from the footage, but yeah, I mean, people have been waiting for this one for a long time. It's weird that it didn't come out in the U.S. first, like most stuff.
I wonder if there's some sort of regulations. There's always a bug when
don't hit me.
Yeah. well, it's usually a mosquito, so at least it's not a mosquito this time. But yeah, so that's came out Tuesday, time of recording, which is today. For you guys, it'll be a couple days ago, and that's going to be £20. So again, not steep. £20 is roughly the equivalent of like $28, something like that. Probably worse actually now with
exchange rate,
Brexit and all that shit. So the sales are super interesting this week because the first one that went on sale is one that we stumbled across. Eweezie was here before Keegan was. Like, Keegan's gonna love this because he's got to try and defend this his viewpoint on this game now, and that is that 100-foot robot golf is now 100% free. Should they still not pick it up, Keegan?
Yeah, don't pick it up. You know why? It's not worth it. It's such a bad experience, and I'm not so. VR experiences. There's levels of like great, which is I haven't played Resident Evil, and assuming Resident Evil for you falls in that, and for me it was Star Trek, Farpoint, Werewolves, and then there's the good categories, which is like the Job Simulator, which is the fun ones, but it's not the same level as those, and then there's the okay ones that are like, this was worth it maybe for the price. And then there's the ones you don't even want to fucking touch. And this is one you don't even want to touch. For me, it was unplayable. Period. So you can pick it up. You can have it in your library. You will probably never play it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for free, anything is worth picking. I picked up the stupidest shit for free just because at some point I know that I might want to give it a shot. I might try it once and never try it again, but I think for free. And plus, this works in non-VR too, right? So
you said the non-VR version is not as... It's good, but there's better games out there to play. Sure. I played it twice, and I was like, I'm done.
So there you go.
I want you to play it in VR.
I have it. I picked it
Then
up.
I want you to tell me what you think of it.
I bet I love it.
And then we'll debate, and we'll yell at each other next week.
Cool. That'll work.
That'll be our question next week is like, what did you think of 100-foot robot golf?
100% free. Keegan still says
Dude,
no.
all these sales are just like, why?
Tekken 7 Deluxe is not obviously a primary VR game. It does have VR elements to it, so I included it in this. You can now get the deluxe version that is usually $85 for the same price as the base game, which is $60, or the non-deluxe version, the regular base game, for $42 instead of $60.
I'm going to be a negative Nancy here again.
God.
If you don't like fighting games, or if you just want to get this because it's VR, don't. Yeah. I've heard the VR side of it.
No, I agree with that statement.
I don't know if that's a negative Nancy.
I mean,
yeah. I mean, I'm negative to everything. Let's be honest. I'm very much the...
He is my counterbalance.
Yeah, Tom's like, yeah, get it. I'm like, for free? No.
Yeah, but Tekken 7 is one of those games that you probably would enjoy the game. So, like, if you like fighting games, you probably enjoy it. But the VR mode is allegedly a little bit lackluster. It's essentially just kind of similar to imagining you watching yourself playing the game from behind you or something. It's just weird. So I don't know if it's necessary.
Don't buy it for VR,
but don't buy it for.
But if you wanted Tekken 7, or if you're fighting game and you're debating on what you want to pick up,
but be aware it does have a VR element to it.
Yes.
And lastly, because there's not a lot of sales this week for VR, at least at time of recording,
Marvel's is officially still gone.
True. Dying Reborn, the Ultimate Bundle, is $7.50, down from $25, which is actually a pretty good price drop. And the Ultimate Bundle is, if you remember, Dying Reborn was done in Standard and VR. The levels that are in Standard are not necessarily in VR and vice versa. I think there was 6 Standard. And maybe it was like there was 6 Standard that you could do, and like 3 of those were able to be done in VR or something like that. Yeah. And anyway, it was so you could buy the double pack of both of those for $7.50, which is not bad. I like Dying Reborn. I thought it was okay. I wasn't like super blown away by it.
I think for this price, unlike the other two, for those prices, worth picking up.
Yeah, it's Escape the Room game.
He's laughing at me.
There's a fish head monster.
You've not seen me how negative I am on some of these shows. Funny. Especially this one.
Try working with this guy.
Yeah.
So I got some exciting news. Let's move on to the news, which is always the most fun of Codename Morpheus. And the first thing I think is going to be stoked for you, Eweezie, and that is that Justice League VR is officially coming to PSVR. How do you feel? What do you say? What do you know?
I was like, who is the Justice League? Because I don't know DC as well as I know Marvel.
Terrible.
I know who's it's Wonder Woman.
Yep, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Flash, Batman, Superman, and Cyborg. Yeah,
I know all of those, but Cyborg
and Aquaman.
Did you ever watch Teen Titans?
No.
No.
So basically,
you should really watch.
It's the Avengers. I know what it is, but I just didn't know who it was.
It's the DC equivalent of the Avengers.
I didn't know who it was though.
But yeah, it's those guys.
Yeah, what do you think?
So what do you think about that? Do you think it'd be
pretty
cool?
Sick.
I think it depends on how they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't said what type of game it is, or are they just saying there's going to be a Justice League game?
So here's the stuff. Warner Brothers and DC Entertainment are stepping up promotion for the upcoming superhero film with a few Justice League VR experiences of their own. Revealed Friday, Justice League VR will let you step into the shoes and feel the powers of the iconic DC superheroes Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg, expected to be rolled out in phases prior to the theatrical opening on November 17th, 2017. The Justice League VR experience will have a 4-stage unveiling that culminates with a full-blown room-scale experience for HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, Samsung Gear VR, Google Daydream, and Sony PSVR. The first taste of the VR experience is already available for Google Cardboard as part of a promotional demo in partnership with Gillette, the best a man can get. The free-to-download demo is an interactive gaze-based experience that will have up to 90 seconds of gameplay per character. Then next month we'll actually see the debut of the HTC Vive version of Justice League VR. The Justice League booth at New York Comic Con will offer attendees a more in-depth sneak peek. So yeah, that's
I'm gonna
be
negative here again because I'm real good at this.
Go ahead.
So I was excited for it until you started listing what it was on, because if it's the same experience on the Gear, the VR, the Vive, and Cardboard,
you think it's largely going to be cinematic?
It's going to be cinematic. It's going to be mobile based.
But there's some pictures, and these will be behind me when I'm talking. Like, that doesn't look like cinematic to me necessarily. That looks like you could actually be doing stuff there.
We'll see. I mean, and the setup's to 90 seconds. So how much gameplay is there? Like that, I was good until you started saying no mobile platforms with it, and that's where I kind of went like.
I think it might be a bit.
I don't think a lot of it depends. A lot of it depends on price too. I mean, I like.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's free, so.
It's a movie tie-in, so that's the other thing.
It's probably going to be similar to Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah, which Spider-Man: Homecoming was very underwhelming. Yeah, I really like. I know it's going to be controversial when I say this, but obviously we have a Batman experience already. How can we compare to the two? Because the other Batman, Arkham, is technically Warner Brothers as well. So will they use some of those things in here, or will they obviously you can't make the Dark Knight series because it's too dark based on the Justice League, but it'd be interesting how they handle that. But yeah, I'm intrigued by it. I'm also, once you started naming mobile platforms, I got a little bit less excited for it. Okay. But I'm interested to see what it is.
Would you play it?
Yeah.
He'll be the positive.
Yeah, any kind of superhero. I mean,
well, they have Megaton Rainfall
coming
out soon. Megaton Rainfall is like a. Did you ever see Chronicle?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like that in VR.
Okay.
But. So, like, it's not like a known superhero, but you can fly, you can put out things with lasers and stuff, and but that's coming out pretty soon.
Lasers.
So, this next piece of news is interesting to me because we've been kind of following this game for a while now. We've asked for, like, codes and stuff like that, and so far been unsuccessful, although it looked like we were going to get some for a second there. But Metaworld. So, let's explain Metaworld again for those of you that are unfamiliar. Metaworld is this kind of weird attempt at a VR MMO, where essentially you have this giant amount of server space which has been created as kind of like just a landscape, if you will. So there's just like plots of lands. Just imagine like you just landed on America and there's no Indians, and that's how you set up kind of thing.
Native Americans is the proper term, Tom.
So you land there, and then you're supposed to like settle there as manifest destiny and all that kind of crap. So this game had a ridiculous Indiegogo or whatever it was campaign where they were asking for $50,000 to put it together, and they reached, what was it, like 2,000 or something out of their 50.
Yeah.
And when you looked at, like, the thing is the game was like largely done. The infrastructure was largely done. It's using a very special new technique, which I'll talk about here in a minute. But it was largely done, and they just wanted it for like marketing, for promotion, and like maintaining the servers and that kind of stuff. And then apparently one of the guys that kind of was a part of that original failing crowdsourcing left and was like, okay, I want nothing to do with this game anymore. But someone picked it up, and they started doing the thing we talked about the other day, which is that you can now buy land for this game. So you could be a pioneer, an elite pioneer, or a vendor, and actually buy yourself some virtual land with, of course, real money. You can see, like, from some of the pictures and footage here that it looks kind of cool, like Minecraft-y almost, the way that it's kind of laid out. But it was supposed to have cross support for Rift, for Vive, for PSVR, for Gear, and the actual, like, land map coverage was supposed to be basically the size of the island of Malta. So if you have any idea, I don't know how big that is, but I'm assuming it's pretty fucking big if it's an island. So the way they were going to do this was using this very special sort of OS platform called Spatial OS. So it lets game developers stitch together multiple servers and game engines to power large-scale persistent worlds. And it was supposed to have like detailed environmental simulations, windswept trees, different animals, fish, foxes, and deers and stuff that would be roaming around. So very much just like you landed on America, go find some land and build yourself a little, part of this VR world.
Do I have to murder animals to eat?
Well, they haven't really gone into details on that, but
am I hacking down trees to build a log cabin?
I mean, that'd be cool. But like it almost seems like a Second Life type situation, but the idea is solid. I think the idea is solid, like of having this kind of second world you can go into, or Second Life, whatever, in VR. So here's where it gets interesting. So the co-founder, who was a guy called Carlton DeLeo, he left the company right before the ill-fated Indiegogo campaign. And here's this phrase that he came out with, or quote. Last year, I began the journey to create Metaworld. Being one of the first developers to use Spatial OS and being the first using it for VR was a huge challenge. Documentation was sparse and improbable. That's the studio behind Spatial OS. Was tied up growing their company. After 3 or 4 months, we had something to show to the world. The response was good. People who tried Metaworld really connected with the world. Unfortunately, after the press showing, I ran into a number of issues with Spatial OS due to the required version upgrades and bugs with Spatial OS itself. Improbable was busy with other things, so they were unable to help. I slowly worked through some of the problems, but progress was slow. I started to feel that making a massive VR experience wasn't going to be possible. At our current trajectory, it just would take too long. So he goes on basically to say that he completely distances himself from it. I was surprised when I found out my partner had started an Indiegogo fund. To avoid confusion, I wanted to make it clear that I'm not currently working on Metaworld. I don't know how my partner plans to deliver on the promise of the fund. If you plan on donating to the Indiegogo fund, please note that none of the work I produce for Metaworld you see in the videos like the one above is what will be delivered. So all of the footage they've been using to promote this game is allegedly not able to be done. But supposedly there was supposed to be activities like hunting and fishing and camping and snorkeling and sailing, sports, training, RC, drones, go-karts, all that stuff.
Yeah, you do have to build your own stuff, dude.
Yeah, so
Abraham Lincoln.
So it sounds okay. Like, it still sounds okay. But now kind of they've switched from this Indiegogo vibe into this buy your own land vibe, which just feels like they're selling you air at this point. So how do we feel about that whole situation? Like, especially with the words of the co-founder after he left.
I'm way more leery. Again, it's a cool idea, and if it's possible, that's the other thing. We kind of talked about this a little bit on Indie Please Die Details, but it's like people have these grand ideas, but they don't realize how to make it happen. I mean, he had an idea of like, okay, I can try this, but I feel like two things are happening. One, you're early on in VR. Two, you're early on in the OS that you're running on, and you don't know what that thing is actually capable of. I mean, I'm using the example of like PS4 and Xbox One games. The games that we're going to have at the end of this cycle, compared to what we had at the beginning of the cycle, drastically different. Same thing as you learn an OS, you can build and build and build upon it, and they're learning it. Like you said, documentation was sparse, so that's a big concern to me. Like there's going to be bugs and things that they got to work out, and it sounds like the company wasn't investing in it. The
Spatial OS, or
Spatial OS. Who was the company?
Oh, Improvise or something like I don't know.
Yeah, they weren't.
Improbable.
Yeah, Improbable.
It's kind of
They weren't investing in it, and it kind of just like, well,
yeah.
Now I'm hearing that makes me not want to get the game.
What would you do, Weezie?
I mean, in theory, it's no different than playing online in GTA and buying yourself an office space.
Except GTA has probably a
that's true.
better structure behind it.
Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, in theory, the same idea behind it.
Yeah.
For a startup game, it's ballsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for allegedly the size of the world they wanted to make, and to make it persistent.
And with the promotional footage not being what it is now, I would want to see something that they can guarantee that will be in the game before I do anything.
Show me some gameplay.
Yeah, the persistent instancing is interesting because that means that technically any animals that die, any destruction that is caused, all of that stuff stays. There was a part, I didn't read it.
What if I just start like a forest fire?
Well, that's the thing. There was a part in here that I read that said that the game's basic principle is survival against other players, as well as
I want a utopia,
normal stuff. Exactly. So
I want a vacation club
in there somewhere, because no one knew it was a survival game until like that part came out, and you were like, "What the fuck?" Like, no, this was supposed to be just like home for VR or whatever, or Second Life for VR. So that game is looking like super sketchy to me right now. I just it's almost like just too good to be true, essentially. And I think
it is.
This is an instance of where that might actually be the case. Moving along, we have Sports Bar VR getting a large update.
Have you played this yet?
I've not. No.
I need to.
I bought it ages ago.
Yeah, this is one of the games that I wanted to play and I never did because I never bought it. And I'm just
I think you'd like it. It's a social
that's what I'm saying.
thing,
I'd love it. Everything I've read has been positive about it. So
Sports Bar VR gets a large update, including PC and PS4 crossplay,
which is always nice.
Always nice, and new mini games and more. So let me dig in a little bit for you here. So Cherry Pop Games has today announced the release of its highly anticipated crossplay update for Sports Bar VR. It's going to be for PSVR, Vive, and Rift. The update is labeled Sports Bar VR 2.0 and is available to download on all 3 platforms right now. In addition to crossplay,
free update.
Yeah. In addition to crossplay between PC and PS4 formats, Sports Bar VR 2.0 adds a host of new content. Up to 12 players can now enter a single instance, opposed to the previous limit of 6, with new gameplay opportunities, including a new whack-a-mole-style reaction minigame and interactive puzzle walls, in addition to the previously available air hockey, pool, darts, and ramp ball. So Pete Jones, who's the CEO, said, "We've always believed in post-release support for our games, and Sports Bar VR 2.0 is the epitome of this," he added. "We've brought platforms together with crossplay, increased the number of players online with up to a huge 12 players, and crafted new game modes specifically designed for VR. We'll continue to bring updates to our fans to offer great value and the best social experience in VR."
So is this like you just hang out in a bar?
Yeah.
That's
It's
cool.
literally what it is.
Yeah.
You can see the headsets, you can see the moves.
Yeah, you can see the headsets and moves, so like you can get like beer drinky straws and stuff for your VR headset, and
it's a really cool game,
stuff.
really cool concept. Like I said, it's one of the games I don't know why I just never jumped in because it's definitely a game I would like. I think, assuming the players aren't assholes in there, which for everything I've heard, it's actually a really fun environment to be in.
Yeah.
Unlike the story we just read, I like this. I love the post-support launch. I'm kind of surprised that this is a... Part of me is like, this feels like it should have been Sports VR 2, but I'm also Sports Bar VR 2, but I'm excited they didn't.
1.5.
Because it's been long... Well, yeah. But I'm so used to developers bringing new stuff and like cash grab that it's really cool that they're not.
Yeah.
And the stuff they've added is... with the new mini games is what makes me think it should be 2.0. The PC and PS4 crossplay, everything that is online social needs it because it'll help build out that
for
that
VR
platform.
Specifically. Like the player base is already so small that you you need that extra push of the crossplay to keep that
I'm
area.
gonna play this one with you.
Good.
I need to get a VR headset, but I might play this one with you.
Yeah.
I like
You like bars?
You like
well,
sports?
I just like the games that are in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Air hockey. You can play air hockey
Yeah,
against
hell
each other.
yeah.
I like the whack-a-mole.
I don't have to worry
games.
about pinching my damn fingers on the pucks.
I don't know how good whack-a-mole would be in VR, but I mean the moves are pretty accurate though. So
Yeah, I think it'll depend on that.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited about this.
Cool.
I'm actually happy about something. You guys happy? You guys happy? I'm happy.
Sure. Yeah. So that's a good developer, Cherry Pop there, giving a nice update with extra content, extra features, extra crossplay,
Free,
free, and being just kind of awesome.
You know, the cool thing about
props to
this
them.
too is the VR community. Part of it kind of sucks because if it's just an update, it won't go back to the top of the list. But for the VR community, this is now a game that people are like, okay, they're supporting this because it's a launch game or around a launch game. I don't know if it's actually launch.
It was close,
but it's around that
couple
time,
weeks,
and
I
I'm
think.
sure a lot of people didn't get it because, as we know, the VR launch was a slow burn because they didn't have units. So now people are going back at the catalog and like, what should I pick up?
And this was a cheap one too.
Don't pick up 100-foot robot golf for free. Go pick up Sports Bar VR.
There you go. it was like $13 or something too. I don't even think it was that expensive. So
Yeah.
Cool. So we've got a couple quick ones for you. So the Invisible Hours, which has been, we've showcased that a little bit. You can watch the trailer behind me. I'm not going to get too into it. That's finally got a price and a release date.
Just moving
He's just moving out of the way
Is he
for
farting?
them. So October 10th, $30 is what we're looking at for the Invisible Hours, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, that means it's relatively close, but $30 price tag, I'm kind of, I need to see a little bit more. I've only seen this one kind of trailer that's been on repeat since they've talked about it, but I thought that was cool. It's a VR murder mystery in case you don't know anything about it at all, but yeah, like I said, watch the trailer. And then Code 51 is a new one. That's a mech-based arena battle game, which is a mouthful, due for PSVR release on December 19th. 15th, so right before the holidays. But yeah, mech-based arena battles in VR. How do we feel about that?
Well, I was more because the release date.
Right on that border there.
Well, it's because 99% of people have already bought what they will for the holidays, and then if you're getting a gift card, you're gonna do it after the fact. So if they release like a week after the holidays, like it would have been better because it would have been at the top of the list.
Yeah.
So I think that might hurt them a little bit, especially with all the AAA games that are coming out. Even because you have to remember, PSVR competes with every game that comes out ever.
Yeah.
Even if it's not VR. So that release date kind of hurts me. It sounds like a cool idea. Sounds like a cool game. Either they need to move which they won't move the date up, so it's in the purchasing window of holidays, or move it behind holidays before everything comes out in the spring to be able to catch that holiday money that came in.
Yeah. I just like the idea of an arena battle game in VR. I think it's always been primed for something like that, like an MMO style.
I really want American Gladiator in VR.
Sorry. Huh?
I want like true American Gladiator in VR.
Yeah? Although that one game that came out looked a bit like that. I can't remember what
but it wasn't true American Gladiator. I want like the 80s American Gladiator with
definitely not that. So this one is not so much PSVR news. It's only PSVR news because of where this game started.
Was on PSVR.
And that is that Theseus, as you know, a very popular PSVR game. We did some coverage of that. That was really fun. It's finally getting launched on the Vive. I put Vice in here for
I saw that
spelling mistake. And the Rift. And as much of they said really is Fall is the best that we've got out of that. Forge Reply's third-person VR action-adventure game Theseus launched on PSVR back in July. Now it's coming to the PC for Oculus Rift and HTC Vive, both with a bunch of technical improvements and adjustable settings. And then they went ahead and said it's going to be released this fall, but they didn't really give any more information.
I'm interested to see what if then the PSVR version will get an update with some of these technical improvements. The adjustable settings, I think, is just a PC thing, but the technical improvements, depending what those are.
Yeah, I mean, they have it comes with several improvements to shadows, textures, overall resolution, adjustable settings for high-end performance, which will be what you were just talking about with the PC thing. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed Theseus, as you know. I thought it was a great title. It would be great if they could bring some of those updates, if temporarily, even if it's just like for the Pro or whatever, just like some kind of a tweak to it. But solid game, and I think that the Vive.
It looks really cool. I just don't. Again, it's one of those games that's just not my type of game, but it looked really cool. It's like God of War in VR.
Yeah, you were basically the story of Theseus is the guy that went into the labyrinth to fight the Minotaur, but it's done in third-person VR. So you're set in a particular space in the room, like an old school Resident Evil game, and then you move your character around into the next space, and then like changes camera angles, and you move, changes camera angles, move, kind of that sort of thing. But it was really incredibly well done. So props to Vive and Rift for getting that game, and enjoy it because it's a good one.
Yeah.
Next up, now this is the one that we talked about a tiny bit before, which was that LA Noire is getting a re-release, and we had a lot of whispers about it getting a VR update for PSVR. Now, it is getting a VR update. It is not as yet announced to get a PSVR update. This is the
screenshot I sent you. That's my phone.
So
I got an email this is an email officially from Rockstar from an announcement. This is where this came from.
So only the Vive has been mentioned as a part of the VR, but the VR is not the whole game like we had originally thought. It's actually something called Case File. So let me explain. So this is directly from the guys behind LA Noire. Today we're proud to announce new versions of the blockbuster detective thriller LA Noire are scheduled to release on November 14th, 2017 for, surprisingly, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. Alongside these three new console versions, we're taking our first steps into virtual reality with LA Noire, the VR Case Files, featuring 7 select cases from the original game rebuilt specifically for the virtual reality experience on the HTC Vive. I'm not going to go into what the game is, because hopefully by now you fucking know what the game is. It's been out for 6 years, probably way longer than that actually.
Yeah.
But it is interesting how they're talking about the Joy-Con mode, where you have gyroscopic gesture-based controls and stuff. HD rumble for the Switch version. That's kind of cool. I don't see any reason why this game doesn't end up on PSVR eventually, even if it's just a standalone.
I'm going to read this. LA Noire, the VR Case Files for HTC Vive delivers 7 of the original engrossing self-contained cases in LA Noire, rebuilt specifically for virtual reality, blending breathtaking action with the true detective work to deliver an unprecedented interactive experience. First thing about this, the fact that Rockstar is doing this, that, like, I'm more excited that Rockstar is working on a VR game in general than I am for, because I never played LA Noire. I've been told it's a fantastic game.
That's right.
You would like it.
But the fact that Rockstar is the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest game company out there. GTA 5 is still on the top. It's like GTA 5 and Minecraft. Which one's going to sell more?
Yeah.
So that makes me excited about that. And I think they're doing it with this because this is they couldn't do it with GTA. They couldn't do it with Red Dead. And I don't think we will get a VR Red Dead experience because
I feel like GTA is possible.
This is I'm not saying they're going to. But what I was going to say is they're not going to start there.
No.
Because this is less resources going to
good
involve.
Place to dip in your toes.
Like, okay, we're gonna learn. We're gonna learn from this experience to then what we learn there. We can then drop into one of our big franchises that are still going. Because LA Noire it's a one and done, right? It didn't have anything. So
it's a one and done.
So I like that along with
big
standout
standout point for LA Noire was that it was the first game to really go to bat for facial animation
which is good in VR.
Right, exactly. So because like. This game, when it came out, the entire crux of it was based upon you interviewing people and being able to read their face in order to, like, you know, ask them different questions or whatever. So you would see, like, them, like, looking sketchy or, like their eye movements. Everything was a part of the experience.
Cheek twitch.
Yeah,
weird cheek twitch.
The fact that it's only on the HTC Vive, I think that's partially because, as I've said before, I think that is still the premium place to play. And that's the best place for a company like Rockstar to see what they can do and experiment. I would love, like you said, I feel like it will come to PSVR at some point. If this doesn't, Rockstar will have something that comes to PSVR at some point, if this goes well.
Yeah.
The interesting thing here is it doesn't say whether it's part of the game or if it's a separate purchase.
It's a separate thing, I think.
So,
the fact they're calling it the VR case files, the fact they're
that was
only taking
my
those 7, it sounds to me like it's going to be either a completely separate purchase altogether or it'll be like an
settings.
option
It's like
the,
on the main menu.
The menu,
I wonder how much it would be if it's separate. That's the other thing that'll come in.
Yeah.
But I'm just excited Rockstar is working on it because Rockstar makes amazing experiences.
Yeah.
So
true
that more than anything else has got me excited, and the fact that I think again with the facial animation, LA Noire is a good jumping point to get into VR, learn the mechanics to then put into a GTA 6.
And to actually have to like stare at the person in front of you, engage them like in the virtual world, I think will be really interesting.
Because the only reason I think GTA would be tough is just because of the legality of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Versus this is not as intrusive.
What do you mean going up to somebody and just burning them with a blowtorch?
Well, the stuff with shooting cops, the fact that you can hire a prostitute,
killing a hooker, getting money back. Profit.
Yeah, I've done that. Sniping David in the head. Like, it's just more implications with that when it comes to social acceptance than this. This is obviously you're playing
this
the cop.
This is a cop game, so it's kind of. You're still like shooting people and shit. But did you play the original LA Noire? Did you like it?
I did. Yeah. I did a lot.
What did it release on? Was it on 360 and PS3, or was it PS2 and Xbox?
I want to say it was PS2.
I feel like it was either PS2 or PS3. I can't remember. It's been a while, man. But it was a solid game.
Yeah, it is a real good game.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell me in here when it was.
So lastly, in our news section for this week, this is a follow-up on a piece of news that we had before, which was a crazy piece of news, was that there is another VR-based publication called UploadVR, which has now changed their name to Upload. But UploadVR is a site that we have garnered a lot of our news from previously. They're very good at what they do, and they have these crazy sexual harassment allegations thrown against them, where they said that basically this building that they were running, like they had like sex rooms and stuff, and like it was really
I got very, very animated, as I do,
and like all the ladies were complaining about this shit, like the fact that you had like a room that people would just go to fuck and then leave, like it was just so creepy, the whole thing. Imagine an office building with that environment in it, like that's super like predator environment. So they got hit with a sexual harassment, wrongful termination lawsuit for one of the girls that was disgruntled by the whole thing. Wow. And that whole thing is kind of coming towards an end. They actually settled the sexual harassment lawsuit. So here's some of the information. The lawsuit was filed this past May in California by Elizabeth Scott, formerly the director of digital and social media UploadVR. The suit says that the female colleagues were treated like second-class citizens in corporate conversations, and that a manager would repeatedly make comments about the plaintiff's body. The lawsuit claimed that others at UploadVR would continuously discuss a certain employee's sexual exploits. The plaintiff also named unfair pay compared to her male colleagues and wrongful termination as other instances of gender discrimination. So Upload responded to a request to comment by linking back to a letter from the COO, Anne Ward, in which she says, above all else, I want to make it clear that Upload is a place where everyone is welcome. Everyone. We will not tolerate discrimination, fucking blah. So they settled, but it doesn't say like how much for or any of that stuff. So
I mean, the thing in this is that from a legal standpoint, there's two reasons you settle a lawsuit. One, you're guilty. Two, you just don't want the press that's going to be drawn out on both sides. Like I was watching, there's a new series on Netflix. I can't remember the name of it is, but it's basically people who got convicted of a crime, and they settled to get out of jail, but they did the past crime without, like, they weren't going to sue the county because they were getting out of jail type thing. And there's people settled because of that, because they don't want to go through that. Because I've never been on trial, but I can only imagine what it does to your life.
Yeah.
So
especially for something like sexual harassment.
Yeah. So this I'm like, as I've said before when this first came out, I think this is gross, disgusting, and it's one of those things where it should never have happened. But I don't want, because there's no proof, and that's the part that's going to happen here. Is like these are all allegations until there's some sort of proof given. So I don't want the settlement to say, hey, these guys were guilty, because they may not have been. They could be though. Like this is not yes they're guilty and no they're innocent type thing. This is, we don't want to deal with this at all, which kind of sucks because I really want to know what happened here.
I think
just from a standpoint of like, if this did indeed happen, that is fucking gross.
It's not strong in terms of like her settling. It's not a strong way to finish this out. Like, no. I would say, like, if you really had something, if you really had something, and you really wanted to like make reprimand or whatever for that company, then settling,
unless they paid her a lot of money.
Yeah, unless it was like a couple million,
and they can't talk about
that's still
hush
money. You know, it's still like basically, hey, shut up.
Yeah,
like, and it's basically like you're trying to fight for equality. You're trying to fight for all the women in this workplace, not just yourself. And then you settle. So it's interesting. Again, we don't know much more in terms of the sort of legality.
I would love to look up. I'm gonna see if I can find the case file for it.
Yeah, if we can find more, then we'll put it in the description below. But again, just an interesting story that we've been following for a little while. So I thought I'd sort of give you that update on that it has been a settlement, but it's nothing more than that really at this point.
Which kind of sucks because I wanted to see how this was going to play out.
Well, maybe we'll get some details, but
I don't think we ever will.
But moving on, past the news section into the spotlight for this week. My spotlight is for a game called Don't Knock Twice.
So the joke here is you knock once, you're not okay. Knock 3 times, you're playing with yourself.
Yep.
So you only knock twice.
That's Keegan's joke.
Yes. Funny, okay? I make it every time.
Don't Knock Twice is actually a movie, and it's a horror movie, and basically this is a tie-in experience to the movie. But it plays entirely unlike a tie-in experience, which is good, because they're usually shitty, right? So, Don't Knock Twice, you start off the entire game in front of a big door, and guess what you do?
You knock twice.
You knock twice. And then you go through this door, and you're kind of, like, a lot of it is not explained. There is not a whole lot going on in terms of like, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? You're just in this big kind of haunted mansion, and that's all you know. You can teleport only in this game. There's no...
Tom hates that.
Yeah, I do. There's no free movement. You're teleporting everywhere. And the weird part about it is the teleport distance is really like short. So it's kind of annoying because if you're at one end of a hallway and you want to like teleport to the other end, it's just not happening.
Teleport.
Exactly.
Teleport.
So like you have to like look up to make it go further. So I found myself going like just to go as far as I could down a hallway, which is super annoying. And also the turning even is not based upon anything either. It's like you have to press, I think it was like circle to turn right, or to incrementally turn right, and then square to incrementally turn left. So my kind of downside of that was that it puts a lot of scares back on the table, because you don't get to creep down a hallway and kind of peer into a door in VR, kind of like look around a corner.
That's what I was just about to say. It doesn't sound like it's really a VR experience, other than the fact that they're just putting you in the environment.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have that kind of like nervousness level that you get from a game like Resident Evil 7, where you're actually approaching a door, you're like sizing it up and down and looking for cracks in the door, and you're kind of getting really nervous about it. A lot of the interaction with the environment as well is just push and pull mechanics. So it's like you have to grab the door handle, push the door open, and it's kind of sluggish in that way. You do get a candle at one point during the game, so that does make life a little bit easier because it is.
It
very
was Tom with a
dark
candlestick in the bedroom.
Yeah, the candle's cool, but then you get other things that you don't really know what you're supposed to do with it.
Dude, Clue in VR would be fun.
I would play
That
Clue
would be
in
cool.
VR,
That would be
especially if it was
cool.
multiplayer.
Yes.
But like I picked up a golf club at one point, and you could see me in the video just walking around with this golf club, and I have no usage for it.
I asked him, I was like, what are you doing with this? Like, what is that in your hand? He's like, oh, that's a golf club. I was like, oh, you can hit stuff with it? He's like, no, you can't do anything
Carry
with
it
it.
around.
Carry it around.
He's
like, I feel
I'm going,
better.
I'm
I
going golf
figured at
lady.
some point I might be able to hit stuff with it, and if you can hit stuff with it, please tell me how, because I did not figure it out. I pressed all the buttons, and the only thing I could do was drop it and
Did
pick
you
it
shake
up.
the controller? Is it motion control?
No, I didn't try that, actually, but I feel like it would not be, because that would be stupid. But I don't know. There was other things you could pick up. The best thing you could pick up was there was like a literal like one-handed flamethrower where like you would light it with the candle and then you go and it was like deodorant can flame, you know,
Yeah.
to burn
Aerosol.
down like webs
done
and
that
stuff.
before.
Yeah, that's
but,
dangerous,
But that ran out.
especially when he comes back.
So I went back to the golf club and that wasn't helping any. But yeah, there's a couple jump scares in it. It's not anywhere near as scary as a game like Paranormal Activity or Resident Evil. It's up there. It's got some decent scares in there. Like there's a moment where I dropped probably my golf club and then I looked down and there's just a baby there just like and you're just like what the fuck, like why is there a baby at my feet? And that happened once and I still don't know why. So that was kind of weird. And there's like sometimes where you'll be walking in sort of the outside courtyard area and you'll see something going on in a window in the building that's kind of creepy, but it's not really like scary. You're just
What's the price of this? Do you know?
I can't remember. You'd have to look it up.
I'll look
I
it
got
up
it
real quick.
on PS Plus. It was on sale on PS Plus for a cheaper price. That's why I picked it up. Mostly, I think it was $20. It was down to like 15 or 16 or something. But
Steam has it for 16.
yeah, I think 16 is where it's at right now. But
20 is full price on PS4, which
Yeah.
is weird that it's 16 on.
well, it was on sale. PS Plus was 16.
Well, no, it's
what I'm saying.
Steam is 16 full
Just
price.
normal? That's
PS4 is 20.
That's weird.
That's happened for a few indie games. I'm sure there's reasoning behind it that we don't know.
And again, it's not a bad game by any means. Like I hate to shit on it because I actually had a good time with it, despite all
Tom,
of the things.
you need to learn to shit on games every
No,
so
but I
often.
didn't hate it. And this is the thing. Like, I should rightfully have hated that game because everything about it was like teleporting. I hate fucking teleporting. I hate incremental turning. I hate having a golf club I can't do anything with. Like, there was so many points to it. But there was like so many subtle touches brought into the jump scares. And like, I had the paintings would like subtly change while you were walking around like layers of fear. That I kind of enjoyed the environment a lot. And that made it better. I did get stuck, which is when I stopped recording.
Usually what happens when
That's
we record
every
these
time.
things.
If it says 25 minutes of gameplay, that's because I got stuck at
It's
25 minutes.
My favorite one is like 23 minutes. Clearly, I got stuck at the 25 minute mark.
But yeah, so I did get stuck in a few places, and it did become kind of a grind to get through some of those areas, and I still don't know how to progress actually where I'm at right now. But it was cool, and I would say that for the price of the experience, $20 is steep if you can get it on sale. 15 is perfect for this. And if you like horror or you like the movie, I haven't even seen the movie. If you like the movie, then it's a decent tie-in. Bear in mind the shitty teleportation. Bear in mind the shitty incremental turning.
The shitty golf club.
The
not
shitty
swinging.
golf
Not
club
doing able
mechanics.
to do anything with those.
You know, I mean, it does make you feel better carrying it around, but yeah, it's just
like a teddy bear for
it's
him.
an odd game. But
fire.
it does have some awesome jump scares in it. So yeah, that's in a nutshell, kind of Don't Knock Twice. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It's kind of in the middle somewhere. I would say if you like horror, $15.
It's not,
is the price
it's not the
tag,
first
pick it
game
up.
you'd pick up. It's probably like the third game you'd pick up in the
Yeah,
horror,
if you just want a
horror.
little chew on a decent horror VR title and you don't really give a shit about like teleportation and stuff, then it's worth it. I probably enjoyed it more than like Here They Lie and that kind of stuff, but I did not enjoy it more than Paranormal Activity.
What about
and
Dying
I
Reborn?
did not enjoy it more. No, not even more than Dying Reborn. So, although it was scarier than Dying Reborn. So, because there's no escape the room stuff, you're like in a mansion. So.
Yeah.
But worth a shot for sure. So that's Don't Knock Twice for PSVR. And lastly, in this week's Codename Morpheus, congratulations, you made it to the end.
Yeah. They
we
can see us
recorded
yell
a
at, they can
weird-
see us yell at each other.
we recorded a weird like structure today, and Weezus
We didn't know if he was going to make it to this
had
episode.
to hang out with us. How long / will we ever see a different headset on the market for VR What improvements would need to be made to differentiate it, but keep it competitive?
So I get to ask clarifying question.
Sure.
Is this new company, or is this just PSVR 2? Is this HTC Vive 2?
New player, new company. Yeah. New company coming in. Doesn't have to be a brand new company. Could be an existing company that makes their own gear that they never used to. But a new headset to rival Rift, Vive, PSVR. Because let's be honest, if you just like fuck off the gear and everything that's kind of like shitty stick of foam by your eye stuff, then when you're looking at the big three, which are Rift, Vive, and PSVR, those are pretty much like have a monopoly right now. Like, but again, it's almost
that's not a monopoly if there's 3 of them.
Well, you know,
monopoly is one of them.
But
it's competition.
It's okay.
So, but it's kind of the same as consoles, right? You have like 2, 3
Xbox, PlayStation,
consoles,
Xbox, or Switch.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at right now. 2 of those things, though, are designed for the same platform, and only PSVR currently is the one that's designed specifically.
So he's
for that
asking,
console.
when do you think Xbox will make a?
No, because I think they'll steal something else. But I think, like, do you think we'll see a headset from a company like Apple, from a company that's just a tech company that wants to get into the game? I mean, remember, the Vive was a product of Valve and HTC combining. So, like, do you think as a developer company that would jump in, like Rockstar, could they make a headset? You know, that kind of thing. And if so, what would they have to do to make it different enough to make it competitive?
You want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Well, I got a question. Everything right now with VR headsets is just you're looking inside a headset, and you've got a display.
Yeah,
right.
Or 2 displays. So the PSVR is 1 display.
Yeah.
The Rift and the Vive are 2.
Okay.
Each
1 per eye.
Yeah. That's why they can't run on. One of the reasons PlayStation VR is 1 display is motion sickness and just power to run it.
Gotcha.
So, do you want me to go first? Or you want to
Go first. Yeah.
So, my thought is we will not see one anytime soon. The reason being we won't see anytime soon is because I can't think of a company that do it. You mentioned Apple. I see Apple putting money into AR, not VR, because that makes sense to the product line they have now, to what they're building forward, to integrating into the actual world. I think what would happen is, I think VR has to be, we've had the argument a few weeks ago about more established. I think VR has to become more established to potentially have a 3rd or 4th player, but I don't think that'll even happen. Reason being is I don't think Rockstar would do it because they don't have enough to get in on the game, because it doesn't make sense for them to get in on the game if they're only doing it for their games. It's limiting your market base.
But Valve did it for all games.
Yes, but I don't think Rockstar would do it for all games.
Gotcha.
Is what I'm saying. Like, there's no
that
company.
That was just an example.
Yeah, but there's no company I can think of that would do a cross-platform unless it's some sort of experience platform.
Like Bethesda or something.
No, I don't think a game developer would do it.
EA.
I don't think a game developer would do it.
Keep doing it. Keep throwing it out.
Ruby.
I don't think a game developer would do it. The reason I say that is they already have platforms. Why would they, business-wise, why would they invest the money to do R&D that a company is already doing and learn its master? What is the master of none? What's the phrase?
I think you're right.
Yeah, but there's
Master.
jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. There you
So
go.
why would you have somebody go in and try and do something that they don't specialize in, and spend time, resources, and money to do that when they can partner with somebody who's already doing it better to get that done?
There are a lot of low-level people doing that type of thing, though. Like, I know that it's not VR, but we spoke to Ben Pointer from Looking Glass about his hologram. Well, it wasn't his, but like the Looking Glass company's hologram thing, which is, sorry, Ben, I don't know exactly what it was called. It's like Hollow Player 1 or something, but it was awesome. And it was basically allows you to play a game as a hologram, which is something that hasn't really been done successfully before. But like, there are smaller companies, startups and things like that are putting money into VR technology, that are trying different things. They're not necessarily making games, they are actually making hardware, or they're making things that are going to be added to the currently existing hardware, be it controllers or whatever. And so what about those? Like, do you think there would be like a startup company that would maybe do it?
I don't think there'll be anyone that focuses on gaming, because gaming's already done. Okay. It's like right now, would you get into the phone business when you have Google and you have Apple? It doesn't make sense because you're going to get drowned out pretty quickly.
Well, yeah.
But if you come in and you say, hey, I'm going to make one that just does vacation experiences or going to do social experiences, that's where I could see a company coming in and saying, we're going to focus on this market.
This is just for movies.
Yeah, I think gaming...
Just using the technology that's there.
Yes.
And then enhancing the content.
Enhancing it and learning that way how to enhance it for that specific medium. Because right now with Vive, with PSVR, and with Oculus, they focus on gaming, and they're learning how it works with a video game. they're not focusing on how it works in the movie. They make other people make movies for their stuff. So if you could come in and have a big movie company come in and, like Warner Brothers is going to come in and say, we're going to have a partnership with all AMC theaters. We're going to make a VR headset and make every movie that we make in VR and do that. I can see that being a thing.
That would be great.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Because there's not already something there. You're not competing with something already, and then you'd have other people do it and sprout up like, oh, that's a good idea, keep going. I don't think gaming will have it because I think it's already set who the gaming players are, unless one of them goes away. We talked about Vive potentially going away or being sold. I don't think that's going to happen in gaming because it's already saturated.
Do you think, though, that let's pretend for a second that it did happen, right?
Vive goes away?
Well, no, just that a company.
Yeah, I was going to say if somebody did do it, I was going to do that and say what do we need to do?
So what would they have to do to compete?
So if somebody did do it to compete, I think you would have to do room scale, like Vive. I think that is going to be the next standard for everybody. It's like you're going to be able to measure your room. I have this, and the game will conform to whatever space you have. It's like Kinect. I use the example of Kinect 1 to 2. Kinect 1, you had to have 10 feet. Kinect 2, you had to have 7 feet. That's 3 feet difference, but that makes a difference in a room like yours. Like, I remember with the first Kinect, I couldn't play it in my basement because I'd be up against the couch. With the second Kinect, I could theoretically not have to do that.
We struggle a little bit sometimes in there. Not always, but sometimes.
So I think room scale would have to be something. I think you'd have to have, I don't know if it'd be satellite cameras like Vive does, or some sort of way of tracking from multiple locations, whether that's on the headset itself and or remote,
so you can move
remote
around
sensors. So you can move around and it knows more accurately where you are.
It'd be fun if you could set like ground barriers. Like you could actually like, you know how you can like teach a Roomba not to go someplace? Like you could put like maybe little pins in the corners of all the places that is in your room space so that you don't like end up falling into a piece of furniture or like tripping
that's what Vive does. When you play Vive, you go in before you start a game, you scan where you can go.
Oh.
And it's room scale, and then again the game adjusts based on how much room you have.
Interesting.
They recommend obviously a certain size. If you're too small, it won't work. But I think for somebody to break in, to be competitive, to do something different and not just copy what's out there, hand controls. We've been saying it from day one. Somebody needs to make either a glove or some way to track. We keep saying gloves, but I don't know what it is.
Nintendo Power Glove.
They need some way to track digits and be able to do different hand gestures, because I think that would be the next step.
Have you guys ever, and the movie's getting ready to come out. Have you guys ever heard of the book Ready Player One?
I know that was it Steven Spielberg that was working on the TV show?
He's working on a movie for it.
Yeah, no, I haven't actually read it, but
I know Ready Player 3 is Jacksepticeye and the Game Grumps.
No. But it's a lot of the stuff that you guys are talking about, like with the haptic gloves and that kind of stuff, is all talked about in that book. And the author of that book, had some really good ideas for stuff that needs to get done. Completely ditching the display, having the the image drawn directly on your retinas. Obviously, that would be dumb.
The other question with this too is the technology there. That's what you have to wait for.
But the one thing that I wanted to point out is the stuff that you're pointing out. It's like gloves, to where you've got sensors inside the glove.
Haptic feel.
You can feel something that you're picking up. If you're holding the golf club, you're feeling like you're holding the golf club. I think that's going to be the game. That once stuff gets to that, not necessarily the visors themselves. But the accessories are going to go along with VR experience.
Well, they still haven't really figured out. There was a lot of people that were doing like these weird treadmills where you would like
run.
You'd have like a circle that you're in, and you'd be attached by a belt to these circles, but you'd be able to actually run and gun. So like if you're for a game like Call of Duty or whatever, you could like run and stop and shoot and run, and turn and spin. And, like that was a neat idea that never really made it to fruition, at least not in the common market.
Omniverse is the big one.
My first VR experience back in the 1990s.
You strap yourself into that and you run.
Had me in some sort of weird barrier thing that knew which direction I was. That's what told the computer, not the headset. The headset was just freaking gigantic. That wasn't what told it that I was turning or I was moving. It was the actual station that I was in.
Interesting.
Hey, I got another piece of news for you.
Sure.
Your treadmill, VR Omni, revealed today that it is working. The company today announced Omniverse, a content delivery and arcade management platform that is intended to be used by commercial Omni operators such as arcades. You can essentially think of it as a hub for the world. Whereas currently has 16 games available with more on the way. What did they?
So is that 16 games that are already tied to a VR experience, or 16 new?
Yes. So here, I mean, there's a list here, but it's Affected the Manor. It sounds like a horror game. Bowmaster, Coin Rush, Hyperdrome, Carnage Chronicles, Nature Treks VR, Omni Arena.
But those are not
Memorial.
existing games.
These are Omniverse is rolling out to existing commercial customers immediately. So these are games that they've made or they've partnered to make.
So do they have a headset with it? Because
No,
the
this is just
Omniverse
the
was
treadmill.
supposed to just be the treadmill.
Yeah, it's just the treadmill.
Yeah, that's all it is.
But they make experiences for the
so
treadmill.
you'd have to
They
have the Vive and the treadmill.
they use Vive or Rift.
Gotcha.
Is what they've been using for it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
So they're still doing that.
They're still working on it.
It looks great. Like
it's a
legit.
space thing. It's like how do you make that work in a home?
Yeah.
That's the big thing. But no, I think gloves. I think motion with running is one of the things I got to figure out, and how you're going to do it without making it dangerous.
I liked his idea of like having some kind of attention where it actually feels like you are gripping something if you're gripping something.
think about it.
Maybe only letting your glove close so far.
Yeah.
Think about it back in the day with like I really as much as I hate the Xbox interface, one of the things I think Xbox is superior to PlayStation is the controller when it comes to racing games, not necessarily shooters because I hate the short triggers. But in racing games, they have rumbles in the triggers, and as dumb as that sounds, when you hit a rumble strip when you're racing, you can feel it, and you're like, I hit a rumble strip. So imagine that with your hands, where it may not necessarily be tension is a good one for it, but it could be also like
Pressure.
just something happening.
Yeah. Something happening
that
inside
makes
your
you think
hand.
it's happening. Like, I mean, look at Touch ID. Touch ID makes you think you're pushing a button.
Yeah.
Every time I turn my phone off,
Force
and
touch.
I was like, I'm not pushing anything.
Yeah.
So that kind of technology is starting to exist, and I'd love to see how they implement it. But I don't think, like I said, headset manufacturer wise, I don't think the games. I think accessories will be the next big wave of things, hopefully, and then I think PlayStation will make 2.0, Vive
The
will make
aim
2.0.
was proof of concept as far as like how much you can change.
I would love to know
experience.
how much the aim sold. That's the other
Well,
thing.
they fucking sold out. Like
Yes, but how
their
many
first
how
wave.
many do they manufacture? Like, there's a lot of things go involved with that. You can sell out, and you can only have made 50,000 units.
I think at some point they're gonna have like absolutely smashed it with that thing. But I think we got to wait for things like Bravo Team and stuff.
Yeah,
to come out.
I'm interested to see how much that sold, because obviously it comes down is at the end of the day it's a business. You got to make money.
Yeah.
So if
What's AIM?
it's the
Aim
gun.
is
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's-
that's what I thought
yeah,
it was.
it's the gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's
I
a
just
gun
wanted to
that
like
Sony commissioned for Farpoint. Which
Yeah.
is,
Okay, I just
And
wanted to
that
make
works
sure
for
that
other
that's
games as well. Yeah.
yeah.
So I think it's the hands. I think it's the
What about a bodysuit?
no,
You don't think
too
so?
much of a hassle.
But I think if they could, like, in terms of like the tracking and everything, it would be a little bit of a hassle to put the suit on. But if you could get that immersion level higher, because you put like on, let's say like a wetsuit, right? You put like something similar to a wetsuit, and it has like impact points throughout it, so that if you're playing a game like super hot, if you get hit in the side, maybe there's a small like. You can actually feel something there. It doesn't have to be painful, but
Yeah.
you actually feel like contact. And then,
I like that. The argument I'd have to that is people change size and shapes a lot. So
You'd make them in different sizes.
Yes, but say you bought one and you spent what is it, $200 or whatever before that suit.
Yeah.
You're not going to go buy another $200 suit because you gained 15 pounds. So I see that as being one of those things that would just sit
Good way
there.
to keep people within their weight limit.
I don't think it would happen though. I like the idea of
What do you
tracking.
mean,
Like
so you can get in your
I've
suit?
seen I could see like they've done the chest pieces and all that, like the vest.
yeah,
I
yeah.
like that. I think that would be more important, or would be more viable than a full bodysuit. Just because have you ever put a wetsuit on?
No,
It is not fun.
I can't imagine.
It is lots of things and lots of places that need
I
to be
just meant
configured.
something like streamlined. I didn't necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, I could
But-
easily have said one of those single piece leotards from the party.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
store,
Those are not fun to put on. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Though, like that's what I'm saying. I'd rather have a vest and have points. Like you said, you still have your points, but it would be a vest. You don't have to worry about weight and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, I think the hardest part would be pants. How do you do pants and make it? I could see. Have you ever seen like goalie padded pants before? Like they're goalie practice pants and goalie pants that have pads on the sides
yeah.
for when you dive. Instead of having pads, you put whatever vibration motors or
Haptics,
whatever in
yeah.
there.
Some sort of
So you
Or
feel
just
like-
at least like strap things to your hips so that if you were playing a game that involved a gun,
Holding it
or
out of a
things in your
holster.
pocket or something
Yeah.
like that, then yeah, you could pull it from the holster. You could feel it get lighter in that area because there would be like weight to it, and then when you pull a gun out, it would get lighter.
Because all this technology exists is just putting it together.
Yeah.
Right.
Is what the
Just-
big thing.
I mean,
and making it viable
immersion
to where
is
it'd be-
the key, right? Immersion is what everyone's looking for. Everyone wants you to feel like you're 100% in a different
in
place.
the big question. I think a lot of the things that, again, from a business perspective, is will it sell? how many people would buy a vest, and it all depends on how much it's going to cost. How much does it take to R&D that? How much does it cost? How do you make it compatible with Vive, HTC, and Rift, or not Vive, Rift, and PSVR? How do you make it compatible with all those and follow those regulations? And because the thing with that is, how do you communicate with whatever it's playing with?
Yeah.
Do you connect it
Well, I
directly
guess
to
in
the
some
headset, or do you?
instances, in some instances, you'd have the manufacturers of the headsets themselves creating this stuff. Like Sony would commission gloves or would commission chest.
But you
piece
still have to
Yeah.
connect it somehow, whether it's Bluetooth or whatever it may
Well,
be.
yeah, but you would build that into a sequel of the unit, or it would be done through an existing means somehow, or even connected wirelessly.
Yeah, that's something. There's just there's a few hurdles you'd have to figure out
sure.
for it to work.
I
But
think wireless headsets would be the easiest way to distinguish yourself from the competition.
I think the hardest part with that though is computing. Your computing's not done in the thing right now. It's done on the box.
Right.
So you have to take the power of that box, put it on your face, and then you have a weight issue. So I
Yeah.
think where we are right now, I agree that I think
And then
wireless
potential
VR
la-
would
and
become
then
a thing.
potential latency.
Yeah.
Once you disconnect your wireless, you're going to get some sort of latency of some
Yeah.
sort.
My worry was more about how the battery would be, because you got to fit
Yeah.
a battery.
Yeah,
in
I mean,
if you're
yeah.
not doing that, and
Yep.
then
There's adding more and more weight to it. I think eventually what's going to happen eventually is you'll have an Apple TV, you'll have a you'll have a PlayStation VR stick, like the Amazon Fire Stick. You plug in your TV, that's the receptor, like you do with your wireless headphones for your PlayStation. Plug that in your TV, turn it on, and this is my perfect world of everything works in VR. That's when VR's hit mainstream, is when you can just plug it in, turn it on, you're there.
Yeah.
And everything just converts to it.
But I think a lot of it as well, when it comes down to adding like the wireless elements and things like that, is right now we're still in the early clunky phases. We're still in first gen. We're still in, like, everyone's trying to figure out like how best to do things. If you think about how far something like, let's say, like, we'll use Apple as a thing since we've been talking about them, but how the original phones started out, and then how like thinner, lighter, more power, more
You
battery.
don't need to make it thinner and
And then
lighter
you
every
start,
time.
and then you start getting into like the
don't.
Apple Watch, and you look at the nanotechnology inside
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Such a small thing, but
Yeah.
so much power behind it. Like, we're at that point where, as the headsets start getting reiterated over and over again, and like improving and having a Vive 3, 4, 5, then you're gonna have them having smaller utensils, smaller CPUs. They'll get around things like hard drives real quickly,
Heat
because that's
is the other thing you got to worry about.
Yeah, but the batteries, there's going to be a lot of improvements in batteries over the next couple of years in technology in general, because they're already working on incredible battery technology.
There's a
So-
battery technology that I saw that will stay on a single charge for 20 years. Problem is, it's the size of this table.
Well, I mean,
So,
you've
yeah.
got the
But
Bluetooth keyboards for actually they're not. Yeah, the Bluetooth keyboards that Logitech makes. It's a 4-year battery, and that's obviously based on usage.
Yeah.
But still, it's there's no recharging. It's just
yeah, I think the other thing too is you have to have the part they don't control is you have to have the infrastructure set up in the home to make this happen. So I think I have really fast internet comparatively, but having 130 gigabytes down, having 130 megabytes down. I wish I had 130
I was gonna say,
gigabytes
man,
down. That'd be
it's like, who the
awesome.
hell are you getting your internet?
5
through?
megabytes up is not good. So if you're going to do wireless, how do you do wireless? You don't want to do Bluetooth because it's not as strong a signal. You'd want to do it through Wi-Fi. But how do you guarantee that you won't have the latency? How do you guarantee it'll stay connected? How do you guarantee these things? And I think that's what they're probably running into with a lot of those wireless ones, is how do you guarantee the infrastructure's there for the people who live in a city like us and the people who live in the boonies that want this technology as well, that'll work with everybody. Because one of the things I think U.S. as a whole, and I think most countries as a whole, need to build more into wireless infrastructure. I think we are dated in that kind of technology right now, and I think it needs to build up to because we have the potential of gigabit easily. It just, companies need to invest in it, and they won't.
So we kind of landed on the fact that it's unlikely a fourth would come into the market to begin with, because
For gaming.
who would be the one to do it? Yeah, for gaming.
For gaming, I
it
could
would
see
only
it.
maybe come to life through like an idea of being purely movie or TV based or whatever it might be. That the accessories for the current ones out there, or for people to break into that market, would be more important in terms of like chess pieces or whatever. And that finally, that the technology is just not quite there yet to supply the perfect experience of what we'd want out of something like a wireless headset or a VR stick, as you put it.
I would
for
love to just
connectivity
go
and that kind
boop,
of stuff.
boop, boop,
And connected.
on. Like, that's a thing theoretically they'll be able to do in like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
So, like, that's the scary part, is like you said, look at we're in the technological age. Look at fucking cell phones between, when was the Motorola was like late 80s to we just announced a new iPhone
Yeah.
and what it looks like and what it can do, and that's what 30 years. Like, that's crazy.
It's been
Actually, another
incredibly
30
fast,
years.
and it's kind of it's.
You just got to be careful with that kind of thing because you got
Yeah.
to make sure it works the way you expect it to.
I think we're moving faster than we ever have with technology, and it's been improving better than it ever has. And I'm excited to kind of see where it goes for sure. But I just thought it was a fun conversation to have because, you know, right now everyone's just kind of settled on the fact that it's Vive Rift and PSVR. But really, this is such an open market still because it's still such a fresh thing for everybody to get involved with that there is potential for there to be a fourth competitor. The question just is like, where would it be and why? And
They'd have to have a reason to come in
exactly.
and do it.
They'd have to know. They'd have to be doing something better than the people that are there currently in order to compete.
Because
So
it's
that
like,
was
I
why
mean,
thought it was
if you look at
fresh.
any business, so again, we'll talk about Apple and Microsoft. They just happened to be in the right place at the right time. They built computers up. I'm sure
Xerox
there
is
was
still
there was so many.
Yep.
Yeah, there's so many other computer companies at the time that could have done that, and they've fallen by the wayside because they didn't do X, Y, and Z and weren't there at the
get there fast
beginning to
enough.
get going.
Yeah.
And then once you get going, it's just you're riding a wave at that point, unless you completely screw something up somewhere. So, like I said, the example of getting into the smartphone or even the computer business, I think would be tough right now because it's so established. And you can get into it. You'll have small players, but I don't think you'll have anybody who comes in and fights the big dogs.
It remains to be seen. I think. I mean, I agree with you on a current basis, but I think it's a possibility. I just don't know.
Yeah,
Again, how or why.
As of right now, there's nothing that makes me think somebody could jump in and do anything different.
I mean, they tried. I mean, look at Amazon.
That's what I was just about to say.
Windows,
Amazon's Fire or Amazon Fire.
Fire phone.
Yeah.
They didn't have the competitive difference. They thought they did with the
Yeah.
weird 3D,
Yeah.
whatever the fuck that was. But
I mean, the Fire Stick has Amazon Prime, but that's about it.
yeah.
That's another thing. I mean, it's interesting because it comes down to the competition of what differentiate. That's like what's your. I used to work for a company. What's your competitive advantage?
Right.
Yeah.
Why are you different than?
Right.
It's what we do on YouTube. Why are we different than anybody else? It's because we talk VR every week. We
And
have a
with that,
PSVR. Like that segue.
we do talk VR every week, and we would like to thank you for tuning in to Codename Morpheus this week with myself, Tom, my buddy eWeezie, and my buddy Keegan.
We didn't yell at each other.
And we didn't really.
Because I was here.
Yeah.
It could have been keeping the peace in the middle here.
You're just like stand back.
That's
Come
what
on,
the
guys.
meat does. So anyway, thanks for listening. If you're on podcast, thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, and hopefully you enjoyed this week's episode. We love all of you guys so much. Thank you for engaging with us as much as you have done previously. What are you guys
There's
fucking doing?
a
over
dog hair or something.
there? There's dog hairs everywhere, man.
I know.
There's dogs everywhere.
There's dogs upstairs actually. You guys can't see.
They
if you're
get real like sticky too.
If you're
They're, like,
listening,
they're good.
We're trying to pick a
we're
hair
pulling
off.
hair
So
off
if you
the
guys hear
mic.
scruffs or scuffs, it's us playing
It's
with
us
the mic
hitting
over
the
here.
mic.
There's a dog hair on the mic. Anyway, thank you for engaging as much as you have been recently. We did get some replies to some of our previous questions in this kind of in this field, and we love it. So we'd love to hear what you think about a potential new headset. Who could do it? Why would they do it? What would make it better? How can you improve what's out there right now? And of course, any of your thoughts or feelings on any of the news segments this week that we talked about. We love you guys so much. Thanks a lot for watching, and as always,
Welcome to the second level.
bye.
Bye.
It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level.